Okay, so I think we'll get started. So welcome everybody to Quantum's webinar today on improving reading fluency with the OrCam Learn, where we're going to be previewing this new literacy technology. So the presenters today are mostly Peter Cracknell, who's on video there, who's our Vision and Blindness Technologies Manager and webinar presenter extraordinaire, and myself, Rebecca Clark. So I'd just like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands from which this webinar is being presented and pay our respects to elders past and present. And for myself, that's the Darug and Gurungai people here in the northern western area of Sydney. And Peter's up in the land of the Turrbal people, is it?
Turrbal and Yagara people, yes.
People, yeah, in Brisbane area. So just a bit of webinar housekeeping. Your microphone will be muted during the webinar, but we will have time for questions at the end, and we will have a bit of interaction at that point because we've got questions for you as well. If you do have any questions, please either put them in the Q&A area, which you can tab to or click on the bubble there, or the chat area. The chat area is probably preferable, and the keystroke to get to that is Alt and H, or click the chat bubble or Command K if you're using a Mac. And again, if you've got any technical difficulties or can't see slides or something, then please let us know in there. The webinar is being recorded, and that will be made available via our email and our YouTube channel afterwards. And the live captions are enabled, which should again be able to be accessed through the Zoom menu and captions. So just a bit of an overview of today's session. So this is really a preview of the OrCam Learn. It's not a full launch, and the idea is also to scope how this might work in Australia, which is why we'd love your input, particularly if you're in an educational organisation or other organisation where it might be relevant. So we'll be talking about how the OrCam Learn might fits into the range of OrCam devices that we've already got, like the OrCam Read and My Eye. Well, Peter will do a presentation on the features of the OrCam Learn and what it does, what its capabilities are. He'll then do a live demonstration. We've also got a video interview with Michelle Catterson of the Moon School in the UK, where they've already rolled out the OrCam Learn. And then we'll have a bit of a discussion of how this might work in Australia and an invitation to take part in a pilot. And sorry, that's a pilot rather than study. And then we'll have question and answer and our contact information. So I will now hand over to Peter. And I'll just stop the share for the moment, and we'll get back to that in just a minute. So yeah, over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks very much. And thanks to everybody attending this morning, including some international attendees from Israel and the United States. Thank you. We're very excited about the innovations that the OrCam technologies are producing. Today we're previewing the OrCam Learn, which builds on the success of the OrCam Read device. I just wanted to give you a little overview of the differences and how the OrCam Learn fits into the range, or will fit into the range. So many people will be familiar with the two versions of the OrCam that we currently use and that are very successful for people with vision impairment. And these are the OrCam Read, which is about the size of a whiteboard marker. This is incredibly popular because it's so portable and it's an instant reader. So the OrCam Read can read from any surface. That is, it can read print, and it can read signage at a distance, close, or it can also read digital screens as well. Very, very convenient in all aspects of life, for reading at home, reading out and about, and reading at school. Controlled by some simple buttons. There is a trigger button at the front, plus and minus buttons, which are tactile, you can feel them. And they are used simply to increase the volume or to decrease the volume, but also when it's reading to actually advance forward or rewind a little bit in the text that you're reading, and a power button at the back. So very straightforward controls and a very fast reader. So it will read almost instantaneously when you press the trigger button. One of the things that we've introduced recently is a frame. I'm just going to swap my camera. Bear with me a moment. So this frame, which folds up and is easily transportable and height adjustable, allows you to place the OrCam read into the frame, and then you don't have to use your hands. It's looking straight down at the paperwork, which we just got underneath like this. And I can obviously press a button, but I can also control it with voice commands as well. So I could use commands not just to read the page, but also to ask it to read from a particular point. I can ask it to start from a particular word, find occurrences of the word, summarize the page. And then all this can be controlled in what we call our smart reading mode. So it's a highly intelligent reader. It's not just a straight read me from the top to the bottom. It will actually, you can control the reading in a smart way, which of course is incredibly important, because with complex text, with a lot of information, sometimes you need to just get straight to the bits that you're interested in. So this is the OrCam Read, and it was principally designed for people with low vision or people who are blind. We also have the OrCam My Eye, and the OrCam My Eye is a wearable version of the OrCam that fits on the side of spectacles. It fits magnetically, and though it has no vision component, it does not project an image or anything like that. It's just a very convenient location to place the OrCam, because it's following your gaze, which means you could be sat in an armchair and you could simply aim your face at the document you're trying to read, and then you can actually read it, because there's a little speaker at the back which will read in your ear, or you can Bluetooth connect to your hearing aids or your earbuds, or to an external speaker. Very, very convenient. And what's remarkable also is it uses simple gestures to control what is being read. So for example, I could point with my finger, sorry, I'm just trying to get my finger in view, to a page. It would see my finger, it would take a picture, and it would start reading. And that point can be directional, so that I only read the paragraph or the sign that I want to read. And we can also stop the reading by simply putting a hand up, and it sees the hand and it stops reading. Very powerful, very mobile. There's also other fantastic features for people who are blind, like face recognition, where it can actually announce the name of the person that's approaching. That's amazing and very, very powerful for social engagement. And also it can do things like tell you the amount of money that you have in your hand, the colors of objects, and also it can read barcodes on products in Woolworths and Coles. Very, very powerful device, being developed all the time with some what's around me type features. So some of the artificial intelligence that we see being very beneficial for vision impaired people is going to be included in the OrCam My Eye as it gets developed further and further. So today's going to be talking about the OrCam Learn, and I'm just going to switch my camera back. And the OrCam Learn resembles very much the OrCam Read, different color, and it comes in different colors as well. So it's the same size as the OrCam Read. and has the same controls, trigger button, plus and minus, on and off, and so on. The difference is this is really more intended for people with a reading difficulty that's not vision related. So what I mean by that is many people struggle to read. They struggle to read owing to other difficulties, not related to their vision, but through dyslexia or some kind of a literacy deficit or a learning challenge. Or indeed, they may actually have a language other than English. They're learning English, but they're not yet fluent with it. So this device, the OrCam Learn, is aimed at being an assistant or a support to those people. It's not replacing the various remedial literacy supports that we already have in place. It's actually complementing them. It's giving students and adults a chance to practice and improve their reading fluency, complementing whatever they are doing in the community or at school or with teacher aid support or with speech pathologists and so on. So this is really going to help assist that process so that people can actually improve their English fluency.
Yep.
It does.
Sorry, Peter, would you like me to start your slides just yet, or?
Yes, actually, Rebecca, thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
So the thing is, the important thing is that we're assuming that the person that's using this has got good vision. Whereas with all the other OrCam devices, we're assuming that they do not have good vision. But in this case, we're assuming that they have good vision. It does have all of the reading capabilities of the OrCam Read, so you can use it if you are vision impaired. But that's not its principal intention. So the purpose is for students and educators. It does use artificial intelligence, and it does that online. So it has some offline features that we're familiar with the OrCam Read, the ability to read from any surface without any internet connection. But in addition to that, it has some artificial intelligence features that we'll look at today that are empowered because it connects via the internet to artificial intelligence. So it supports teachers in schools. We think that its largest application will be in the school environment, but there are many applications outside school as well, and we'll look at those too, with an aim to improve their literacy and therefore to reach their full potential in school and when they leave school. Mm-hmm. So it offers practical reading support. So what we mean by that is that it's very easily taken up by both students and supported by teachers. It provides feedback as the user improves, some analysis of their reading fluency, their comprehension, their reading speed, and some reporting not just to the individual user, but to the people supporting them. And that could be, of course, teachers. It could be looking at a whole cohort of children that are using it in a particular school. So you can actually see an overview, and I will look at this in a moment, of the data. So we talk about it being an integrative solution. And what we mean by that is it works as a complement to the existing structures in schools for teacher support and outside the school too, from organizations like SPELD and so on, speech pathologists and tutors and so on. So it works within that framework. It builds the confidence of students with reading and learning differences and English as a second language. So it consists of the ability to read text from either printed or digital services, some reading comprehension tests, which are actually done independently of another adult. It is actually the child that is actually doing the reading comprehension test with the device. Immediate feedback, and various really cool features. The ability to get a dictionary definition of the word that you're getting stuck on. The translation of English text into other languages. And some reading PAL practice. Now, we talk about the feature called the reading PAL, which is a mode where it asks you to read back text that you're reading from a book or some other document or even from an iPad. In other words, and this is where the vision component comes in, you need to be able to visually read the text. You then read it out loud. The OrCam Learn listens to what you're saying and then analyzes your ability to read that text. There is also an exam mode where the various online features are turned off, allowing you just to read the text in front of you. And that could also be powerful, we think, in certain exam or assessment situations. If you could please have the next slide. Thanks, Beck.
Yep. Okay.
So the OrCam Learn supports students, teachers, and administrators. And how does it do this? Well, of course, it supports the students because it gives them some practice with their reading fluency, their comprehension of the text they're reading as they go through various grade levels of reading. Their learning independence. This is a really crucial thing, that the whole point of the OrCam Learn is so that the student can feel motivated to learn and engage independent. And so yes, sometimes they will be dealing with a teacher or a teacher support, but other times they just simply want to be able to practice themselves, have their own time to practice. And that may, of course, be at home. And this leads to confidence. And confidence also leads to engagement within the classroom activity at the time. And that's a very important point. I will just actually take a little side diversion here. In 2019, OrCam and Quantum ran a study with the Department of Education in Queensland, where we actually loaned 10 devices of the OrCam My Eye variety. We didn't have the OrCam Read or the OrCam Learn at that time, of course, to students across the state of Queensland. And the Department of Education was particularly interested to analyse whether the students with reading difficulties, not so much through vision impairment, but through other reading challenges, would actually improve their engagement with curriculum. And that's exactly what we found. Even with the OrCam My Eye device, we found that even with that device, students were actually more engaged in the classroom, and their reading confidence was improving tremendously because they were in control of some of the process and were taking some ownership of it. And this is what we mean by confidence, of course. Mm. The teachers can also benefit from the OrCam Learn, partly through the data and some of the insights they can learn from the data reports. They can also give more time across the class, because they can allocate some time for students to use OrCam Learn to practice while they're attending to other students, then come back. In many ways, it's like having another teacher support in the class. Administrators can also get like a cohort visibility to look at the performance data across a whole cohort. And this possibly may tie into when we're looking at NAPLAN, how is the cohort doing with their literacy in that particular grade. Becca, if we can have the next slide, yeah. Thanks.
Sure.
The way that the data is collected is through a portal. So this is a website-based portal, and very comprehensive reports can be provided to the teachers and to the people looking at the performance of the cohort. So you can drill into a particular student, you can see their activity over time, their improvement, how much of a particular reading grade they're reading, what their fluency, their reading speed, their word counts per minute, and their comprehension is improving. So we can see here, for example, that a student might appear to be doing very, very well. But when you actually look at the data, you see that they're reading 2 grades below what they should be. So you may need to ask them to recalibrate and try reading another year level up to try and improve with that. So the metrics that are used by the OrCam Learn are very much in line with international metrics about words count per minute, prosody, and fluency. These metrics are definitely in alignment with those in the United Kingdom and the United States, and we hope that they would be in alignment with the various metrics that we use here in Australia. We have already shown this device to various educators to assess that very point, whether it aligns with the metrics that we use in Australia. And so far, the feedback we have, and we do invite feedback from everybody here today through the chat, is, as you'll see as we go through this, if you feel that it is aligning with the way you would like to measure student performance, let us know. If you see any issues or you see any opportunities, let us know as well. This is very important for us to assess how this device could work in our Australian context. Beck, if we can have the next slide.
Yep.
So, of course, one of the things that I know that in schools we're under a lot of pressure, time pressure about reporting and the analysis of data. So one of the things that the OrCam Learn system does very, very well is capture this data for you and present it in a way that is pretty instantaneously understandable. So you can glance at this. It's like a dashboard for a particular student, and you can see whether they're on track, whether they align with all the other strategies that are in place with teacher supports and so on. Is their comprehension, is their reading grade actually starting to improve? Are we seeing improvements in fluency and so on? Are there any particular words that seem to be a sticking point for them? Perhaps we should spend some time on a particular phrases. So this means that we have fast data and actually practical data that can be used by teachers to improve the outcome. Okay, if we can have the next slide, thank you.
Oh, I think we must be up to your demonstration.
Yes, I think the slide about my demonstration must have slipped out. That's okay. Let's go back one. That's okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually give a demonstration of the device in use as if it was by a student. So what I'm going to do is pin to me. That's great. I've got various texts that I'm going to use just to demonstrate this. I have a fairly simple text, which is just a lower grade reader, and a more advanced text about birds and wildlife and so on. And we also have just from a digital service like on an iPad. So I'm just going to start with that, and I'm going to swap my camera to the long range camera. So in its simplest form, we can just ask the OrCam Learn to read from a surface. So we could just simply aim it at the surface.
It's a bit soft, Peter.
Buttons to connect.
That's better. Thanks.
Click here on Use Letter Now. Click here.
So that was simply reading what was in the frame of when I press the trigger button. Because I've got a glass screen, it's a little difficult for you to see the frame indicator. So I'm going to show you on another document the frame indicator. So here you may be able to see that there is a red frame that is telling me the field of view that I'm going to capture now.
printed material.
Or if I want to take another one, as you can see, I can localize what I want to listen to.
A personal algorithm reader. Now with voice command search option. Skip one line of unreadable text. The OrCam Read Smart seamlessly and instantly reads text aloud from nearly any printed surface or screen. There's no need to scan long lines of text.
Mhm.
That mode is that's the frame mode where we can actually define the amount we want to have spoken back to us. And you saw how quick it was and how accurate it was. I'm just going to switch it to another mode by pressing a couple of buttons, the minus and the plus button. And you may now be able to see a spot of light, which is actually in the shape of a mouse pointer, or perhaps a pointer in a presentation. And this can actually now just localize the sentence that I want to read. So in this case, it's just a word, the word command. So that was actually just reading back just the particular word that I was pointing to. Now, that's just the read back mode. What I'm going to just demonstrate is some of the really cool features that we now have because of our ability to use it with the internet. So one of those is to get a dictionary definition of a particular word using this mode here. So I'm just going to do that now. Hey, OrCam, what's the meaning of? And it said, please point at any word. So I'm going to choose a word.
Hold it. Oh, I couldn't hear that.
Wanted.
Can't quite hear that, Peter. Are you able to try that again?
Okay, I'll try it again.
Sewn onto a garment. Either to fasten it by being pushed through a slit made for the purpose or for decoration.
Did you hear that better, Rebecca?
Yes, it's a little bit better. It's quite soft, but yeah.
Okay. So what I was doing was, and again, this comes to the point that it's not a vision device. I need good vision to be able to see that the pointer is on the word, but I just line it up on the word. It then gives me a definition of the word. So frequently a student will read 80% of it quite fluently, or listen to it and understand it quite fluently, but they'll get stuck on a particular word. And this way they can just get a definition in plain English of that word. If there are two definitions, then you'd press the plus button to get the second definition, and so on. So this is a really immediate and spontaneous system. It means you don't need to go through some software or anything like this. It's not just on this surface, but it could be on an iPad. We could do the same with the iPad or some other digital surface. We'll get a dictionary definition. So that's very powerful. Now, the real strength of the OrCam Learn system is in what we call the Reading PAL. The Reading PAL is a mode in which it's listening to you read back text. And while it's listening, it's counting the number of words, the correct words, the reading speed, pronunciation, and so on. And it's also encouraging the student as they go. So I'm just going to do that now. So I'm just going to take this text here. Hey, OrCam, let's read.
Picture of the text.
Oh,
and it said, please take a picture of the text. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a picture of this text here.
Please start.
Amy had heard these words many times before. Mum was always too busy. She was always too busy to watch Amy's soccer games. She was always too busy to watch her dance shows too.
You read 33 out of 34 words correctly. You may want to work on pausing at commas and at the end of sentences when you read. You read 4 sentences out of 4 with complete accuracy. Keep up your fluent reading. Now it's time for some questions. Please point at any word in a sentence that contains the answer to the following questions. Here is the first question. Who was always too busy to watch Amy's soccer games?
All right, let's try this one.
Great. Now, you've got one question to go. Here is the last question. Why was Amy's
Oh, we can't. Yeah,
too
it's
busy?
got quiet again. That's better.
Are you sure? Please try again. Great. She was always too busy to watch Amy's soccer games. We hope you've enjoyed the quiz. Please take another picture or double press the trigger button to exit.
So what it was doing was it was asking some comprehension questions, so that and this is a very important point, of course, for reading. It's not just about rote reading; it's about understanding what you have just read. So in this case, these are comprehension questions. It's a quiz. That's all recorded, and it's also, I think though perhaps that wasn't very clear, the actual voice, because of course it's coming through my headset microphone. It's very encouraging. The reading pal is very positive and encouraging. It's always congratulating and encouraging the student. And of course, this could be done in class, or it could be done at home, of course, supported by parents or by teachers. That's so the reading pal is aligned with some goals that you set. And the reading pal is aligned with an app. So this, I'm just going to show you the app. So every student runs the OrCam Learn app. They have a profile that is set up for that student. And so every student will have the app, which is sets their reading goals. So these would be listening goals, reading goals, and understanding goals. And so they might have to listen for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or they might have to read for 20 minutes. And that is in their profile. And there's a little indicator, like a wheel, which is showing you how far they're advancing through today's goal. So this data is also, of course, captured on the data portal that the teachers would see as well. Every device, every OrCam device can support up to 3 students. Each student would have a profile, and they would also have a QR code generated that would be their profile, so that a school might have just one device, but student A would borrow it for the morning. They would click their QR code. The OrCam would then know that they would to load the profile for that student. Then when the QR code is clicked for another student, then their profile is loaded. So this is a very straightforward interface almost everybody would understand how this interface can be operated. It's not difficult to explain. You can get up and running in a school pretty quickly with these simple interfaces. So the other features that the OrCam Learn can operate are we've talked about the dictionary. I'm just going to come out of this mode. And the other feature is the summarization feature. So the idea of summarization is that you might have quite a complex document, and the student might benefit from just like a skim reading or a summarization of that complex document. So I'm just going to try that now. Hey, OrCam, summarize.
Please choose the text you want to summarize.
And it says, please choose the text you want to summarize. So I'm just going to aim it just at this text here.
Summarizing text. Southern Asia has suffered losses of wildlife in consequence of human actions, such as reclaiming marshes and lakes, damming rivers and tidal mud flats, and polluting rivers and streams with poisonous effluent, cranes, egrets. Herons and pelicans face persecution by commercial netting and shooting and habitat disturbance through intensive fish netting and reed cutting. Several countries have created wetland reserves for winter visitors, including India, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Assam. None. You can choose any other text to summarize or double press the trigger to exit. Please try again.
So that took a rather complex 2 paragraphs and stitched together the meaning, taking the key points in about 5 sentences. So that's quite powerful for people to get an overview or a summarization of a complex document. The other feature that we have is translation. So bear in mind, as we mentioned before, that this might be of a benefit to people whose first language is not English. So that might include international students who are doing foundation courses at university. It might include indigenous communities where English is their 3rd language and they have 2 other languages. And of course, it might include migrant or refugee communities. So here, sometimes it's very useful to have a word or even a whole document translated into their language. So I'll just try this now. At the moment, we support about 15 languages. And so I'm just going to try this now here. Hey, OrCam, translate to Spanish.
Choose the text to translate to Spanish.
Oh, hang on a sec. I've just got a word. So I'll just do a word.
Oh, that's a bit soft. I don't.
Palabras.
So I had it in the arrow pointing mode and it picked the word, a particular word. And it translated the word words to the Spanish word palabras, which is the Spanish for words. I could choose another word. So I could choose the word
Watch.
No, it's not. Okay. Hey, OrCam, I'm just going to change the mode to the box mode. Hey, OrCam, translate to Spanish. Hey, OrCam, translate to Spanish.
Translating to Spanish.
Aide había escuchado estas palabras muchas veces antes. Mamá siempre estaba demasiado ocupada. siempre estaba demasiado ocupada para ver los partidos de fútbol de Aimee. También siempre estaba demasiado ocupada para ver sus espectáculos de danza.
That's oh, yeah.
You can choose any of the text to translate.
I don't know if anybody can speak Spanish, but I can, and that was almost perfect. And the pronunciation was fantastic. We found that the language pronunciation for the OrCam devices is really excellent. So we've tried this with Chinese speakers, and they've said that the Chinese translation is excellent. And of course, where we can, like in French and Spanish, we've assessed that too. So this can open up a lot of possibilities for European language speakers, and we hope in time that there would be further languages, including perhaps indigenous languages, that that this device could support.
If you like, Peter, I've got the screen up that's got the list of languages I can
Yeah, let's do that.
share. So currently there's Spanish, German, French, Portuguese, Mandarin, Polish, Hungarian, Finnish, Danish, Greek, Hebrew, Korean, Italian, Russian, and Ukrainian. And it's English to those. So it doesn't do the reverse, but it does English to any of those. So
Thank you, Beck.
so yeah, that's great.
So this is where we're at with the OrCam Learn at the moment. This is a preview, of course. It has been established in the UK for 1 to 2 years, and it's been very successful there. Also in the United States and in Korea as well, and other countries around the world. So Beck, I think we're almost ready for the video from the Moon Hall School. If you want to put the slide up of Michelle Catterson, that would be great, and then I will play the video.
Okay. Okay, sorry, so I'll just go back one. So yeah, so this is the one with.
So Michelle Catterson is executive head teacher at the Moon Hall School in Reigate in the United Kingdom. So Moon Hall is a special school for children with dyslexia and other reading difficulties. Michelle is also chair of the board at British Dyslexia Association and a member of APPG for dyslexia. So she's really at the forefront of literacy and dyslexia in the United Kingdom. Very, very passionate, as you'll see in the interview, about students and the outcomes for them. I pre-recorded this interview the other night owing to the time difference, so apologies for any quality issues, but I think you'll see the value of this presentation. It's about 13 minutes long. Please, whilst you're listening to Michelle, and if you have anything you've thought about through the progress of the webinar so far, please pop into the chat your comments. And it's very important that we feel from the participants today what their reactions to the way OrCam Learn might integrate into teaching practice are. So I'm just going to share my screen and play this video.
Yep, and you've got it as the video clip option.
Yes, thank you very much for that. Can you see that okay, Beck?
Yes, that's great.
Okay, here we go.
Moon Hall is a dyslexia specialist school, so all pupils at Moon Hall have dyslexia. All our pupils have SEN, special educational needs. Many of our pupils have co-occurring difficulties as well, so a number of our pupils will have ADHD, we have some pupils who are dyspraxic or dyscalculic, and some of them who may also be on the autistic spectrum as well. We've got 185 pupils starting in year 3, which is roughly age 7, and we go up to year 11, which is roughly age 16. A lot of people say that our school looks like Hogwarts, and it does. I can't deny it. It does look like Hogwarts. So it's very magical. In many ways, it's very magical. It's very transformational for a lot of our children and their families to come to a school where probably for the first time ever that they're actually understood in terms of their dyslexia, that they aren't what they would refer to themselves as being stupid or thick or not able to do anything, that they have huge potential, and we are really, really aspirational for all the pupils that step foot across our school.
So which house do you run, in Gryffindor or Slytherin or?
Actually, we do have houses, but our houses are named after famous successful dyslexics. So we have Branson House, we have Lewis Hamilton House, we have Whoopi Goldberg, and we have Keira Knightley.
Keira Knightley's dyslexic.
She
I
is
didn't realise.
dyslexic, yes.
Oh, wonderful. I think it's so important for people to understand, that people can be successful. One of the things that the OrCam Learn does, of course, it's a digital device, but do the students embrace it because they are digital natives to begin with? I mean, do they just take to it like a duck to water?
So we do a huge amount on assistive technology here at Moon Hall. For me as head teacher, one of my goals and ambitions is to empower our pupils to be as independent as possible. I don't want our pupils relying upon another adult to access the learning or to access the lesson. So really the only way that that can be achieved is by the use of assistive technology. What the technology has to be is accessible. It has to be easy for the pupils, and it has to be easy for the staff as well. I've used technology before, and if it's too complicated or convoluted, then the teachers are afraid to use it in case their lessons don't go as planned. And the pupils as well, with kids who are dyslexic or who have SEN, giving them too many steps in a process can be very difficult for them. Once they've done step 1 and 2, they've quite often forgotten what step 3 is. So the usability of any assistive technology has to be very clear, easy and streamlined. So I think they do need to have a willingness to use assistive technology. There has to be that open culture of using assistive tech in the school. I think a number of our pupils had bad experiences of assistive technology before, devices not working, not reading out the words correctly, not being entirely accurate, the voices being very robotic really puts our pupils off. So that's what's different about the OrCam, is that it really opens up those possibilities because it's easy to use, because it looks pretty cool, because it can fit in the kids' pockets, it's not really obvious, it's quite nice and discreet. It really means that they are much more open to trying things and giving it a go, and that's the key really, is getting them to that point that they're willing to have a try with these things.
Was that quite a process trying to integrate this device into your teaching practice?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we're really quite big on assistive technology here. We don't have a huge amount of teaching support assistants in the lessons because I don't want the pupils being over reliant upon an adult in the lessons. So we have to use assistive technology to create and foster that independence. Because not all staff are as IT literate as maybe we would like them to be. They need a bit of help, guidance, support. And just like the pupils, if it's too difficult, if it doesn't work, then they're going to be put off using that in their lessons, and that's definitely what we don't want to happen. So yes, schools have to invest not even huge amounts financially, but in terms of time and staff training, making sure that the staff feel empowered to embrace these new technologies.
I think that the OrCam Learn is very similar to having a human being sitting next to you, just monitoring your progress, encouraging you, and so on. So I'd have thought that would have fitted in quite well into if you're already doing that. So there's time out and there's reading practice and so on. Is that what you found, that it can take on some of that role?
Yeah, one of my pupils, when we were discussing OrCam previously, referred to the OrCam being like a teacher in his pocket, that he could just take out of his pocket when he needed that extra bit of support. And I think we're great here at Moon Hall at dispelling that stigma of dyslexia. So the barriers that some children have faced previously don't really exist here, but that's not necessarily the situation in every classroom in every school across the UK. There's still that embarrassment. associated with perhaps needing the teacher to repeat an instruction or to read something out aloud for them. So by using a device like the OrCam, it means that they don't have to ask the teacher. They can be independent. They can use that device to access their learning. They can also change how it reads aloud to them, the speed, the voice that's used as well. So they can really make that device bespoke to them and their needs. Some of my pupils really like the device to talk quite quickly, and they just listen and process that information. For some of my pupils, they need it a little bit slower to try and get that information into the long-term memory. And that's the uniqueness of the OrCam device, is that it can be tailored to the individual to meet the individual's needs.
The other thing about the OrCam, apart from the reading back of text and coursework and so on, is that you can also read to it and measure your with the reading PAL feature. Is that something that you use much at the school?
Yeah, we do use it, and we do a lot of teacher reading as well and human reading. So it's really a bit of a hybrid between the technology and the teacher, and that's really the way that all assistive technology should be, is that integration of the new technology as well as the fabulous teachers and expertise that we have in the classroom. So yes, we do use it. I think with our kids here at Moon Hall, because it's a dyslexia specialist school, they tell me in previous schools where they've been forced to read it aloud and it's made them feel really embarrassed and really awkward in front of their classmates, what the OrCam device can do is take away that sort of embarrassment that they may feel by reading out aloud to the device, which isn't the same as reading out to an adult. It's a lot easier to take some constructive criticism or feedback from a device as opposed to an adult. And what it's really doing is improving their reading skills, making them more confident. They may look at a book. So it's really difficult for dyslexic children because sometimes their reading ability is not aligned with their chronological age. So they want to read books that their non-dyslexic peers might be reading. They may want to read Harry Potter books. They may want to read other books where the text or the words are quite challenging for them and they might struggle to decode those words. So it enables them to read books that they can comprehend, they can understand the comprehension element of it, and they can understand the story, but they just can't decode it in order to understand. And often when they've read one sentence, because it takes so much effort to read that one sentence, they've forgotten what the previous sentence was, and then they can't join the story pieces together. So that's a real game changer as well for some of our pupils that, especially as they're getting older, want to read more challenging texts.
And so do they really practice at home?
Yeah, do you know what is amazing with the OrCam? As soon as you give it to a kid, they literally just start clicking every single bit of text around a room everywhere. So it's got that real novelty factor that makes it interesting. And the wonderful thing about it is because it is accurate, they don't get fed up with it, because they can literally look at a board with writing on it, or a poster, or a bus timetable, or ingredients on a packet of foods that might be difficult because of the font size or the contrast between the text and the background. Because it's easy to use, they're far more inclined to pick it up and use it, and that's the wonderful thing.
And the other aspect that's really, I think, really interesting about the OrCam Learn system is the measurement tools, where the child can get a snapshot of how they're progressing and feel motivated by their progress, but also you can see a whole cohort. You can see the data for a whole cohort. Is that something that, if you find, aligns with the way you're measuring the progress of the children anyway?
Yeah, so we do, they're called NGRTs, National Learning Tests for reading and for spelling. So we do those. We do a variety of different methods that will measure pupil progress in their reading and in their spelling. All data is really useful to us because one child might have a really strong performance in one assessment and data collection. So it's a bit of a comparison and collaboration of all the different data along with the teacher feedback as well. So all data is really useful for us as a school. As a head teacher, one of my priorities is teacher well-being, looking after my staff, making sure that their workload is manageable. And I know that that's a big concern for a lot of teachers in schools, that the admin side of things has increased greatly over the years. So what the collaboration of the data enables us to do is to cut back on the amount of teacher analysis and teacher time that needs to usually be dedicated to collating this evidence. Fortunate at Moon Hall that we have small class sizes, so the maximum number of pupils that we have in a class is 12. So it makes it a little bit easier for the teacher to be able to listen to the children reading and to sort of facilitate those that need help in the classroom. That's not the case in every classroom across the whole country, where you may have up to 30 pupils in the lesson. So what you have with when you have the OrCam in the class is you have another member of staff really that can help that pupil to access the learning. So whilst the teachers may be helping one pupil, they can be directing the other pupil in the class. We'll use your OrCam just now, and I'll be with you in a second. So the pupil can get started on the task without needing the teacher to be there to help them to be able to access the learning. Can I maybe also just sort of give another sort of point where in our exam situation in the UK, all the children have at Moon Hall have access arrangements, which are things that are put in place to sort of level the playing field and make sure that they're getting as much support as possible against their non-dyslexic peers. So that may be extra time in the exam. It might be that they have a human person that can read for them. They might have somebody that scribes and writes the answers for them. Because the OrCam device doesn't connect to the internet, it means that it can meet our national guidelines, so our GCQ guidelines for exam practice, so that it's allowed to be used in exams to help the pupils. So that also cuts down on the number of staff that need to be available in the exams, because pupils can then use the OrCam device, access the learning, access the text that's on the page, and also read back their answers, so they can take an image of their own written responses and double check for themselves that they're happy with the content.
That's great. Thanks, Peter.
There was a really great interview with Michelle, and you can see how passionate she is about working with children with dyslexia in particular. But also it seems to have been very successful the way they've integrated the technology into their teaching practice. Beck, I think if we could go back to the slides and we can start talking a little bit about, and I'm conscious of time, it's now 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock.
Yeah,
so.
I've got the one about the subscription options. Is that what?
Yep. That's the one.
There we go. So yeah, so we're likely to run a bit over time, but yeah, like we say, we are recording it if anyone needs to drop out.
So in terms of the deployment of the OrCam Learn solution, it operates by subscription. So subscription is like a monthly, an annual, or a 24-month subscription. The figures I have on the slide here are actually not quite fixed because we haven't launched the OrCam Learn, but it's indicative of the sorts of dollars we would anticipate, and simply based on the figures that are currently the United States figures. So you can purchase a monthly subscription, let's say for $88, or 12 months for $70, or 24 months for $60 per month, of course. The way OrCam Learn solution works is, though that $88 per month, that applies to the first user, but you can add a couple of other users, and each sequential user pays less for their subscription. This model is one that we're working on. We need feedback from families and educators in our environment in Australia as to how this could actually work. Anyway, so what do you get with your subscription? You get the use of the OrCam Learn device for the offline reading and the regular online modes. You can use it with a personal profile to set your reading goals. This is with the app, and record your progress. You have the Reading Pal feature, which is the one where you read out loud and it measures and encourages you and comments on your vocabulary and fluency. You have the dictionary feature. You have the translation feature and the summarization feature. So this system, you have to understand that with the OrCam Learn, the whole goal is that to improve your reading fluency and your English literacy. Ideally, at some point, you may actually be up to your goal. You may actually be reading at a rate that is sufficient for employment or engagement in education and so on. So, for example, take the international student. They might be doing a foundation course and they want to improve their English reading and speaking, but that they might achieve that within a year or so. So they might only need to subscribe for a year or a couple of years. There may be some people who find it is still valuable for them, especially for the reading features, and they may choose to continue to subscribe to it. We think that this gives some flexibility to schools where people come in and out. There are cohorts of people. They may actually not need one device per pupil. They might have a pool, bearing in mind that up to 3 users could be on the one device. So we think there's some flexibility there, but we will actually be having a little survey at the end of this where we invite you to comment on what might work, or any pitfalls or any opportunities you see for how this could actually be purchased, who would be purchasing the subscription, whether it would be families or whether it would be the schools or districts. This is the sort of thing that we're trying to learn from.
Mm.
So, Beck, I think that's
probably yeah, is the last. Yeah, so yeah, if anyone's got any questions, or like we said, if you've got any feedback, that they're both in the email that goes out after the webinar, and in the browser at the end of the webinar, there will be a link to a survey where we've got a few questions. So yeah, if anyone has got any input, your thoughts, we're more, like we said, we're totally open to feedback at this point. So, and how it might work within Australia, so, and your situation. So,
Great. Well, thanks very much for everybody who's attended today. We really appreciate you looking at this preview of this exciting new technology. We've seen that it's successful overseas, and I'm sure it will be successful here in Australia as well. But it's very important to us to get your feedback, your commentary, either as a result of this session or contacting us directly on the numbers on the screen. Beck, if you want to just run through the contact points.
Yes, so there is a sort of contact form at our website, quantumrlv.com.au. Our 1300 number, 1300 883 853, or send an email to info@quantumrlv.com.au, or even your local consultant if you've already got those emails. And yeah, we're happy to follow up with anybody that would like to. Or in terms of doing a pilot, we have got access to some devices that we could talk to schools or other organizations about, doing a pilot and seeing how it works in your environment. So yeah, please do contact us if that's of interest to you and you want to investigate further. So yeah, thanks everybody for attending. We don't seem to have any more questions, but yeah, we'll
wrap up there.
We'll wrap it up there. So thanks everybody, and thanks Oren. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks Peter, and thanks to Michelle Caddison, obviously of the Moon Hall School. So
yeah, that was wonderful. Yeah.
Oh yeah, cheers. Thanks. Bye.